will open up for a few minutes of questions.
We're taking questions on this topic. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Ari Natter from Bloomberg News. I'm curious how long you think it'll be until we see commercialization of this technology. And also, as a follow-up, if this happened on last Monday, why are we just hearing about it now? Thank you.
It's going to take a while before we see this commercialized. I don't know if you want to say a word about that.
Sure. Yes, there are very significant hurdles, not just in the science, but in technology. This is one igniting capsule, one time. And to realize commercial fusion energy, you have to do many things. You have to be able to produce many, many fusion ignition events per minute. And you have to have a robust system of drivers to enable that. So, probably decades. Not 6 decades, I don't think. I think not 5 decades, which is what we used to say. I think it's moving into the foreground and probably, with concerted effort and investment, a few decades of research on the underlying technologies could put us in a position to build a power plant. On the question of what we've been doing for the last week, the team has been hard at work analyzing data. It turns out that when you ignite one of these capsules, it's unambiguous that something big happened. You make a lot of neutrons, but the data is not trivial to analyze, and the team invited all of their team members who understand the individual diagnostics to come in and work together to look at all the data to make sure we had the numbers right. And we brought in an external team of experts to do a peer review before we were ready to release the numbers. It's really important that we tell you the facts and that we get them right before we go public. So that's what we've been doing for a week. So
you should probably stay there.
2 quick questions. One, I know this the positive net return is the important thing, but how much energy does it take? That we talk about the wall plug energy. How much wall plug energy did it take? And are there implications for other types of fusion? Is this something that could inform magnetic confinement fusion as well?
So the laser requires about 300 megajoules of energy from the wall to drive 2 megajoules of laser energy, which drove 3 megajoules of fusion yield. Our calculations suggest that it's possible with a laser system at scale to achieve hundreds of megajoules of yield. So there is a pathway to a target that produces enough yield, but we're very distant from that right now. So 300 megajoules at the wall, 2 megajoules in the laser. So this really is talking about target gain greater than 1. And then there was a second part to your question.
Does it inform
magnetic fusion? Yes. So there are many common things about plasma science and the materials you need to work in fusion environments, diagnostic techniques, et cetera. Essentially, magnetic fusion works at low pressures and densities and for long times, whereas inertial confinement fusion works at high pressures and densities for very short times. So there are some similarities in the underlying physics, but the fundamental concepts are quite different.
Secretary Granholm, Pete Baer with the Indian News. Congress has charged you and the department with making decisions about the most promising designs for a pilot fusion plant, and you're in the middle of that process now. How are you going to approach that, and what are your concerns about making those kind of choices?
Well, clearly the folks who will be evaluating are the professionals in this, who are the scientists who do this work. And they will, like they do with all of these funding opportunity announcements, do a whole peer review process of each of the applications to determine which ones are most likely to be successful given the challenges. There's no parameters on whether these are magnetic confinement plants or laser confinement plants. We are just looking at the best proposals that come in, and hopefully we'll have a decision on that first $50 million at the early in the new year.
Hey there, Secretary. Gary Grumbach from NBC News here. There's questions about the ability to scale here, and that was touched on a little bit as it relates to power plants, et cetera. But can you talk about the ability to scale and who should be in charge of that scaling? Private, government, both?
Well, clearly, we want the private sector, and we need the private sector to get in the game. It's really important that there has been this incredible amount of U.S. public dollars going into this breakthrough. But all of the steps that will be necessary to get this to commercial level will still require public research and private research. We know that there's been a huge interest among the private funding community, startups, et cetera, and we encourage that. The president has a decadal vision to get to a commercial fusion reactor within, obviously 10 years. So we've got to get to work, and this shows that it can be done, which has been a question. Can you get there? This demonstrates it can be done. That threshold being crossed allows them to start working on better lasers, more efficient lasers, on better containment capsules, et cetera. The things that are necessary to allow it to be modularized and taken to commercial scale.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to clarify. You're saying, there's a goal to get this in a decade. You had said that there would be decades, plural, in terms of commercialization. How do you reconcile that? What is the timeline here?
I think I get that. So there's two approaches to commercial fusion energy. One is based on magnetic fusion using devices like tokamaks. One is inertial fusion. There are private companies pursuing both approaches. The technology development, the foundational technology to begin to scale up toward a power plant is further along in the magnetic fusion community. And it's building more directly off the work that's been done in recent decades at facilities like JET in the United Kingdom, at the Princeton Plasma Physics Lab, at MIT, to build the foundational technologies up for magnetic fusion energy. The National Ignition Facility has been focused on creating this first step. If we could not ignite capsules in the laboratory, you could not see a pathway to an inertial confinement fusion energy plant. So this was a necessary first step. But the NIF is built foundationally on 1980s laser technology. So, we need to bring modern technology approaches to the drivers. We need to think about all the systems questions. And now that we have a capsule that ignites, we need to figure out, can we make it simpler? Can we begin to make this process easier and more repeatable? Can we begin to do it more than one time a day? Can we start working toward rep rate? And each of these is an incredible scientific and engineering challenge for us. So while magnetic fusion may be a little bit in front, having that portfolio of approaches is really a great place to be, because these communities will feed off each other, we'll learn, we'll continue to advance the field, and many technologies will grow out of both fields in addition to the path to a fusion power plant. So that, I think having both is really important. You'll hear in the panel about some of the potential advantages of an inertial confinement fusion approach. It's a little bit different. So I think it really is important to keep us on that pathway. And with investment, with energy, no pun intended, sorry about that, with real investment and real focus, that timescale can move closer. We were in a position for a very long time where it never got closer, right? Because we needed this first fundamental step. So we're in a great position today to begin understanding just what it will take to make that next step, and then where that boundary is. I'm guessing, because I don't want to give you a sense that we're going to plug the NIF into the grid. That is definitely not how this works. But this is the fundamental building block of an inertial confinement fusion power scheme. So.
I'd like to acknowledge as well, Congressman Lofgren joined us as well. Thank you so much. And there are a number of DOE has 17 national labs. A number of those lab directors are also populating this audience as well. I know that Kim would say this has been a group project and would acknowledge the other labs that have contributed to this effort as well and are working on their solutions. So thank you, everybody, so much.